Because suffering and general misery seem to be fairly common topics in the books English teachers assign as class readings, the experience of reading these books can often be uncomfortable for the reader. The subject of whether serious topics improve the quality of literature, or the role the reader should have in the analysis of said literature, are far too large of topics for easy consideration. But a focused reading of two texts can expose a great deal about what makes certain reading experiences uncomfortable. For students in Canada, two books that often come up are the novel Through Black Spruce by Joseph Boyden and Frank McCourt's biography Angela's Ashes. So these texts make a solid basis for an examination of uncomfortable reading. However, for many readers, these books will not feel equally uncomfortable. My discomfort in reaction to the events that Boyden is creating isn't as simple as saying that I disliked the book. I enjoyed reading Through Black Spruce and thought it raised interesting questions about the lasting legacy of Canadian policies about First Nations peoples. However, my later reading of Frank McCourt's Angela's Ashes clarified for me what exactly I found so uncomfortable about reading Through Black Spruce. Upon first reading, both Through Black Spruce and Angela's Ashes offer portrayals of events and situations that can make a reader uncomfortable. But for me, the objectification of Annie's heritage while she's working as a model, or Will's realization that he is as distant from his heritage in the forest as he was in the city, feel much more uncomfortable than the way that Frank is humiliated in his school days. McCourt's memoir is filled with suffering and abhorrent conditions that he grew up in, and while I feel a great deal of sympathy for him and am impressed by how far he has clearly come, his book did not make me feel uncomfortable in the way that Through Black Spruce did. This isn't a matter of deciding which degradations are worse. These are different texts that are part of different genres, which makes the already difficult task of evaluating wrongness nearly impossible. There are even some aspects of these two books that overlap. The representations of alcohol and addiction, for example. Frank McCourt lives with an alcoholic father, and Angela's Ashes offers the reader a view of the suffering that this causes within that family. On the other hand, many of the characters in Through Black Spruce are addicts in their own right. Will in particular relies on alcohol to help him deal with the loss of his family and his conflicts with Marius. Through Black Spruce offers insight into the reasons that drive a person to that level of addiction, and the ways that they view their own substance abuse. This is where the benefit of comparative literature becomes obvious. It is one thing to analyze the impact of one book, but when two texts are read in conversation with each other, it exposes the larger patterns and concerns that are important to readers and to society. When I read Angela's Ashes, I can see that it's not just the use of drugs and alcohol as a coping mechanism that I find upsetting. It is that the characters in Through Black Spruce are dealing with a legacy of oppression that limits their access to resources that may have kept them away from substances as a coping mechanism. As a middle-class white person in Canada, I feel like I'm on the other side of that legacy, and as such bear some level of responsibility for the situation. My reaction of, I am uncomfortable, is more than I am uncomfortable. It is a reaction to the social issues that are being presented, and my own position of privilege. Even the resolutions at the end of these books are comparable, in the ways that they bring closure to the conflicts of the book. Through Black Spruce ends as Will and Annie are made strong by their families, once again connected to their heritage that they have been searching for throughout the novel. Frank McCourt also finds his closure as he stands on a ship on the way to the United States, headed away from his family rather than towards it. These endings are overall quite uplifting, even if they may be made melancholy because of the events that preceded them, but they do not erase the uncomfortable feelings that the books brought up. When the McCourt family drama, even affected as it is by complex politics, is placed beside the struggles of overwhelming the systematic oppression of First Nation peoples, it poses difficult questions to the reader about how the society that they are part of has shaped the experiences of people like the ones they are reading about. I am uplifted by McCourt's arrival in America, because he is now in control of his own destiny, but I am saddened by the family reunion in Through Black Spruce, because I feel like I am part of the systems that took away the connections the characters have finally managed to reestablish. So when an English teacher assigns books like these ones, and asks students to compare situations and stories that seem to be separated in a myriad of different ways, these are the kind of things they want students to think about. Finding both books uncomfortable to read is fair, but being uncomfortable about them both for different reasons is what makes reading them worthwhile. These reasons are worth thinking about, writing about, or at the very least bringing up in class so you can get some participation marks. Hi, I'm Q. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. If you want to cite this video for an assignment, you can use the citation, which is also printed in the description box down below, and here are the citations for the 2 books I have talked about in this video. You can send me an email at this address if you want to give me feedback or suggest books for me to talk about in the future. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and the little bell if you want to get notifications about future videos like this one. Thank you.